What if you could take all of the chords you already know and play them all over the neck in any spot with as little effort as possible and in any key? You'd have a much better knowledge of the fretboard, right? And once you know how to play those chords across the fretboard, you'll be able to weave in and out of chord progressions like a pro, right? Then once you know that, you'll be able to grab chord tones within chord progressions during your improvisations, which will allow you to play more melodically. This is a goal and should be a goal for you and every intermediate guitar player out there that's trying to expand their fretboard knowledge. I'm going to show you today how you can get started doing that with major triads on the first 3 strings. It's not really a trick, all right? There's no trick to this. You can listen to all the so-called gurus all over the internet saying, here's a trick to learn this. It's all clickbait. Follow along, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can take 3 simple triads, major triads on the first 3 strings, master those so that you can start playing progressions up the neck. This is going to be the start to you really understanding how simple it is to master triads all over the fretboard, and so that you can start leveling up your guitar playing. While we're only doing these on the first 3 strings, you're going to want to subscribe and follow along because I'm going to do more of these on different string sets and in different keys in the coming weeks and months. Make sure you grab the free PDF so that you can practice this. There will be a link for that just below or above me right here in this video. My name is Brett Blakemore. Let's get started. I want to help you master the fretboard one chord shape at a time. I'm going to show you these 3 shapes right now. So let's take a look at just how simple this can be. We all know an A major chord, a D major chord, an E major chord, and you can probably already play songs or a 12-bar blues with those 3 chords right now. All that is a 1-4-5 chord progression in the key of A. A being the 1 chord, D being the 4 chord, and E being the 5 chord. That's a simple thing that you can memorize, and being able to understand the Nashville number system is a lesson for another day, but we will get into that at some point, so make sure you follow along. So let's take a look at how we can make those triad shapes. There's really only 3 triad shapes on any given string set. These are closed position, meaning they're on strings right next to each other or adjacent. So what is a triad? A triad is simply a 3-note chord. All it takes is 3 notes to make a major or a minor chord. Pretty simple. In this case, you need a root, a major third, and a fifth. We just need an A, C sharp, and an E for an A chord. We need a D, F sharp, and an A for a D chord. We need an E, G sharp, and a B for an E chord. That's a lot of information to try to memorize right now, so I'm going to show you a really easy way to do it. Patterns are the key here so that we don't get information overwhelm, and this is exactly how I teach all of my students in all of my programs. We want to first memorize the patterns because as a guitar player, we're pattern oriented, right? So let's learn the patterns, and then we can learn the theory on the back end so we can start making music quicker. It's much easier to start playing these patterns than it is to memorize each note within there and whether it's a root, third, or fifth in the bass. We got to start with simple patterns. So let's zoom in and take a look at what we got. So let's take a look at our A major triad. All we need is an A, C sharp, and an E. So we've got this full A chord here, but we can break that down and just make it a 3-note chord. Right now, that's 5 notes across the fretboard. So let's take a look at A, C sharp, and E. Just the first 3 strings is all we're dealing with right here. And I'm going to show you how easy it is to master these major triads on this first 3 strings. There's only 3 shapes. So grab your guitar, pay attention, and make sure you grab the PDF below so you can start memorizing these patterns. So let's take a look at our first triad shape. It comes out of our open A shape, A major chord. So all we're doing is grabbing the first 3 strings, A, C sharp, and E. That's 2, 2, open on 3, 2, and 1. So there's our root position. So now we're going to go up and we're going to get our A major triad off the first 3 strings based on our E shape, and that's 3rd, 5th, and root. 6, 5, and 5. We've only got one more shape here, and that's the D shape. And that comes out of our C shape out of our caged, or out of our D shape out of our caged. So that's a lesson for another day, but there's a D shape of an A chord. So we can take these shapes up one more position, and we probably should because the shape changes just slightly. We've got our A shape that we had here, 2, 2, open. Up here at the 12th fret, that's 14, 14, 12, because we don't have the luxury of the open note right here. So the best thing you can do is just memorize those. You've got A, root position, A, third in the bass, A, fifth in the bass, A, root position again. Now let's do the exact same thing for the 4 chord in the key of A, and that's a D major. So spoiler alert, our shapes don't change right here. We've got the exact same set of shapes. When we learned the A major triads just now, those shapes are the exact same shapes that we use for the D major triad on the same string grouping and the E major triad on the same string grouping. The only thing is they fall in different spots on the neck because we have a different string grouping. So this isn't information overwhelmed like you might have thought in the original thought process of this, right? All this is memorizing the shapes over in A and then moving them to D and then moving them to E and seeing how they relate and where they are in comparison to one another. You're not learning new shapes here, you're just putting them in different spots on the neck on the same exact string. So let's take a little closer look at the D and the E major triad, and then we'll play a little progression, and that'll be your assignment. So now we've got the D. This is 5th in the bass. So you notice there was our A 5th in the bass, same shape, D 5th in the bass. Let's go up to our next one. If 5th was in the bass, our next one up is going to be root in the bass, because it always goes root, 3rd, 5th. So if 5th is here, we know our next shape is going to be the root, and that's 7, 7, 5. So now we only have one more shape, and we've already learned it in the key of A, or in the A chord, so let's do it in D. That's D with the 3rd in the bass. So when we did A, we went A root. What's after root? 3rd in the bass. What's after 3rd? 5th in the bass. And then you're back to root. So now when we go back and we do D, we're starting on D, the one you already know, 5th in the bass. We know it has to go to root. Then we know root goes to 3rd. And then we're back to 5th in the bass. That completes the cycle. So we've only got one more. We've got E major, right? That's out of our E shape of E. All we need is our first finger on that G sharp. That's 3rd in the bass, and we strum from the 3rd string down. Right? Pretty simple. So that's it. Right? There's our 3rd in the bass. So what's next? We know after 3rd is 5th. There's 5th in the bass. After 5th in the bass is root. Look, we've not changed our shapes. Then we're back to 3rd in the bass. Okay? So pretty basic stuff here. We've got root with the A position, 3rd in the bass, 5th in the bass, root in the bass. So then we go to the D, and that starts D, 5th in the bass, which we know goes to root, which we know goes to 3rd. We finish with 5th in the bass to finish the cycle. And then we go to E out of our E shape, and we know it's E 3rd in the bass, which we've got next 5th in the bass, root, and then we got to go full cycle to our E in the bass. So this is where we can start to see the similarities here, and this is how I would practice this. So the next thing you have to do to really make this pop and to stick with it is you have to be able to make music with this. We need to see how we relate these to one another in a chord progression. So we're going to do a very popular progression when it comes to memorizing things across the fretboard. We're going to go 1, 4, 1, 5, and 3 spots on the neck. We only have 3 shapes. We just have to mix them up and play them as close together so that we can have good voice leading. And so this stuff can stick in our brain. 1, 4, 1, 5 in the key of A is going to be an A, D, E, D, A. So let's take a look at how we can do that in those 3 spots, and then I'll let you get after it. So let's take a look at these chords in the progression. We've got a 1, A, a D, 4, 1, A, and a 5. 1, 4, 1, 5. One reason why you really need to learn your triads is because look how closely related these chords are. This is good voice leading, all right? So this is kind of theory 101. Don't move further than you have to play a chord. Here's our A. Look how close it is to D. Then back to A. And then back to E. Simple. 1, 4, 1, 5. Right? We got A in root, D 5th in the bass, E 3rd in the bass, and then back to A in root. Now let's move up a spot. So that's your first spot. Now, when I'm doing this, let's make it more than just back and forth with the chords. Let's try to make it musical and go like that. 1, 4, 1. You can even practice it in going like palm beating, being like, and you can change that rhythm up. Right? You can almost get a little Tom Petty feel thing going there. So look, now if you come up here, we're going to go 1, A, 3rd in the bass, D, root, A, 3rd in the bass, E, 5th in the bass. And once again, look how close these are. A to the D, simple. Back to the A, simple again. And then we're barely moving for this. How much easier is that than going full bar chord. Now, while that's meatier sound, we're trying to expand our fretboard knowledge, and that's the key to what we're talking about today. If somebody's doing this, you can be underneath it going, right? So that's what we're doing. So you can do the same rhythm thing here. Now we've done it here. And we've done it here. So we've only got one more spot to do this, and we're doing it here. We've got A, 5th in the bass in our D shape, D, 3rd in the bass, A, 5th in the bass, E, root. So now we're putting all of this together. So all we're trying to do is go 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5. And you can see just how closely related each of these chords are. By the time you practice this, you will have memorized all of the major triad shapes off the first 3 strings. There's only 3 in that closed position. This shape, and this shape. The differentiator here is being able to make music with it and seeing how closely related they are within a key in a chord progression. So that's why we're practicing 1, 4, 1, 5, and then going up 1, 4, 1, 5, going up. And that's how I'd practice that. So this is one of the keys to really being able to master the fretboard. There's going to be more to come in this series of triads, but make sure you grab that free PDF. That link is below, okay? And you want to have that so that you can really get this stuff down and master this stuff. It's not rocket science. These are the key to being able to move around the fretboard. And eventually, you're going to grab notes out of each of those triad shapes to outline chord progressions so that your solos can sound more melodic and more musical. So that's it for the lesson for you today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this type of content. It's my joy to be able to help you as an intermediate guitar player reach the next level and break through your current plateaus so you can play guitar at a level that you've always dreamed of. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much, and have a great day.